I was sitting at the far end of the table. The cheap end, as my sister Melissa liked to call it. Away from the center where Dad sat like a king, surrounded by my brother David, Melissa, and their perfect families. Their successful families. "So, Sarah," David said loudly enough for the entire private dining room to hear. His voice had that edge to it. That tone he'd perfected over the years, concern wrapped around judgment. "Still unemployed?" The table went quiet. 23 family members all staring at me. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents' friends from the country club. All waiting for my answer. I took a sip of water. "I'm managing." "Managing?" Melissa laughed and her diamond bracelet caught the light. The one her husband bought her last month. She made sure everyone knew it cost $40,000. "David, she's still managing." "That's adorable." Mom reached over and patted my hand. The pity in her eyes was worse than David's judgment. "Sweetheart, we've talked about this. David's firm is hiring. You could start in their mailroom. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. Better than whatever you're doing now," David added. "Which is, what exactly? Still pretending to be an entrepreneur?" He made air quotes with his fingers. Dad cleared his throat. He was wearing his best suit, the Tom Ford one he'd bought specifically for tonight. His 60th birthday. The big celebration. He'd invited everyone who mattered in his world, his law partners, the mayor, 3 city council members, the CEO of the hospital where he served on the board. "Let's not ruin dinner," Dad said, but his eyes lingered on me with disappointment. That look I'd seen for the past 6 years. Ever since I dropped out of law school. "Sarah knows she's always welcome at home. Until she figures things out." "She's 32, Melissa whispered loudly to her husband. "Still living in that tiny studio apartment. No car. No career. No prospects." I smiled and nodded. Let them talk. I'd learned years ago that arguing only made it worse. Better to stay quiet. Better to let them believe what they wanted to believe. A waiter approached with appetizers. David immediately started explaining to the table about the restaurant, La Maison Bluey, the most exclusive French restaurant in the city. Reservations booked 6 months in advance. He'd pulled strings to get this private room for Dad's party. "Cost me a fortune," David said, making sure everyone heard. "But nothing's too good for Dad's 60th. 23 people in the private room, full prix fixe menu, premium wine pairing. We're talking $35,000 before tip." "That's my boy," Dad said, beaming. "Always taking care of the family." Melissa leaned forward. "Sarah, did you at least bring a card? Please tell me you brought something." I had brought something. An envelope with a simple birthday card. I'd spent an hour writing it, choosing my words carefully. But now, looking at the elaborate gifts piled on the side table, the golf clubs from David, the luxury watch from Melissa, the crystal decanter from my parents' friends, my card felt pathetic. "I brought a card," I said softly. "A card." David laughed. "Well, that's something." The appetizers arrived. Oysters, foie gras, truffle risotto. I watched my family dive in, discussing the flavors, the presentation, the excellence of La Maison Bluey. David had chosen well. This restaurant had a Michelin star. 2 actually as of last month. "The owner is apparently a genius," Melissa's husband said. "Opened 20 years ago with 1 location. Now they're everywhere. A real success story." "That's the American dream," Dad said. "Building something from nothing. Creating real value. Not like these kids today with their apps and their startups that go nowhere." His eyes flicked to me. I took a bite of risotto. It was perfect. Creamy, rich, with just the right amount of truffle. Chef Pierre had outdone himself tonight. I made a mental note to give him a bonus. Dinner continued. Course after course. The conversation flowed around me like I wasn't there. They talked about David's latest case, a corporate merger worth $200 million. They talked about Melissa's husband's promotion to senior vice president. They talked about my cousin's acceptance to Yale Law. Nobody asked me anything. I was the cautionary tale. The failure. The one who threw away her opportunities and ended up with nothing. "Remember when Sarah got into Columbia Law?" my aunt said suddenly. "We were all so proud. And then—" "Let's not dwell on the past," Mom said quickly. But the damage was done. Everyone was looking at me again. Remembering the daughter who had so much potential. Who threw it all away. I dropped out in my second year. Told my parents I couldn't do it anymore. That I wanted to do something different. They'd paid for my first year, $70,000. When I dropped out, Dad told me I was on my own. No more money. No more support. I was making the biggest mistake of my life and I'd have to live with the consequences. That was 6 years ago. 6 years of disappointing my family. 6 years of being the black sheep. 6 years of watching David and Melissa rise while What? Nobody knew what I did. And I never told them. The main course arrived. Wagyu beef, perfectly seared. Roasted vegetables that looked like art. Another round of wine, this one costing $900 a bottle. David made sure to announce the price. So, Sarah, Dad said, cutting into his beef. Your mother and I have been talking. We think it's time for an intervention. My stomach tightened. An intervention? Not like that, Mom said quickly. We worry about you, honey. You're not getting any younger. You need stability. A real job. Benefits. A retirement plan. I have all those things, I said. David laughed. Really? We're doing what? I manage some businesses. Manage? Melissa rolled her eyes. Like that coffee shop you worked at? Sarah, that wasn't managing. That was being a barista. I wasn't a barista. I was. It doesn't matter, Dad interrupted. The point is you need help. And we're prepared to offer it. David's firm will take you on. Entry level. $35,000 a year to start. It's not much, but it's a beginning. You'll work your way up. $35,000 a year. I made that in about 4 days. But I just nodded. I appreciate the offer. You appreciate it? David leaned forward. Sarah, do you understand what I'm doing for you? I'm risking my reputation to get you a job you're not even qualified for. The least you could do is show some gratitude. Thank you, I said. Really? But I'm okay. You're not okay. Melissa snapped. You live in a studio apartment in a bad neighborhood. You wear the same 3 outfits. You don't have a car. You don't go on vacations. You don't have anything. She was right about some of that. I did live in a studio apartment. I'd bought the building 5 years ago for $8 million. It was now worth $22 million. My studio was on the top floor with a view of the city. I kept it simple because I liked simple. Why would I need a mansion when I traveled 3 weeks out of every month? As for clothes, I had plenty. I just preferred comfortable jeans and simple shirts. The $3,000 kind that looked like they came from Target. Why draw attention? And I did have a car. 7 of them actually in a garage across town. But I preferred walking or using ride shares. Better for the environment. Easier in city traffic. But I didn't say any of this. I just smiled and nodded. We're staging an intervention, Dad announced. Sarah, you're moving back home. Tomorrow. We'll help you get on your feet. You'll take the job at David's firm. And you'll start acting like a member of this family. I can't do that, I said softly. You can't, Dad's face turned red. Sarah Elizabeth Torres, I am your father. And I'm telling you. That's when the manager appeared. Robert Chin, 55 years old, been with the company for 18 years. Started as a line cook, worked his way up to general manager. One of my best employees. He was carrying a bottle of champagne. Dom Perignon Rose, vintage 2008. A $4,000 bottle. He approached our table with a smile. Good evening, everyone, Robert said. I hope you're enjoying your meal. It's excellent, David said, puffing up. I told them this was the best restaurant in the city. Thank you, sir. Robert placed the champagne on the table. Compliments of the owner. The table erupted in appreciation. Free champagne from the owner? This was special treatment. The owner. Dad said. That's very generous. Please send our thanks. Of course. Robert began opening the bottle. Miss Torres wanted to make sure your 60th birthday was memorable. Dad frowned. Miss Torres? I don't believe we know. Robert turned to me and bowed slightly. Miss Torres, will you be joining them for champagne or should I bring your usual? The table went silent. 23 people stared at me. My usual would be perfect, thank you, Robert, I said calmly. David's fork clattered onto his plate. What did he just say? Robert, bless him, kept his professional smile. Miss Torres owns La Maison Bluey. Has for the past 8 years. I'll bring your champagne now. He walked away, leaving a silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. Melissa spoke first. That's impossible. Sarah doesn't, she can't. La Maison Bluey, my aunt whispered. But this place is worth $45 million, I said quietly. I bought it 8 years ago for $12 million. The previous owner was retiring. It was a good investment. Dad's face had gone from red to white. You own this restaurant? This one. And 47 others across the state. I took a sip of water. The champagne Robert's bringing? That's from my personal collection. It's a 1996 Dom Perignon. About $8,000 a bottle. I keep a few here for special occasions. David was shaking his head. No, that's not possible. You dropped out of law school. You had nothing. I had $63,000, I said. My grandmother's inheritance. You remember? She left it to me when she died my first year of law school. Everyone told me to save it. Use it for tuition. Be responsible. You spent your inheritance on a restaurant? Mom looked horrified. On 3 restaurants actually. Small ones. Struggling. I bought them for $20,000 each, kept $3,000 for living expenses. Then I worked. 7 days a week. 16-hour days. I learned everything. Cooking, managing, marketing, accounting. I turned those 3 restaurants around in 18 months. I looked around the table. Everyone was frozen listening. I sold those 3 restaurants for $200,000 total. Then I bought 5 more. Did the same thing. Turned them around, sold them for profit. Bought more. Bigger ones. Better locations. I kept reinvesting. Growing. Learning. But we thought. Melissa couldn't finish the sentence. You thought I was failing. I know. I let you think that. It was easier than explaining what I was doing. Easier than dealing with the judgment. How dare you drop out of law school? How dare you waste your potential? So I stopped explaining. I just worked. Robert returned with my champagne. He poured a glass and set it in front of me. Will there be anything else, Miss Torres? No thank you, Robert. Everything is perfect. Please tell Chef Pierre the risotto was exceptional tonight. I will. He'll be pleased. After Robert left, Dad found his voice. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have listened? I met his eyes. Would you have supported a 26-year-old law school dropout buying restaurants? Or would you have told me I was making another mistake? He looked away. We both knew the answer. The coffee shop Melissa mentioned, I continued. That wasn't me working as a barista. That was me buying the place. It was failing, losing money every month. I worked there for 6 months, yes. Behind the counter, learning the business from the ground up. Then I restructured everything, changed the menu, renovated the space. Sold it 2 years later for triple what I paid. How much? David's voice was barely a whisper. How much are you worth? The restaurant empire is worth approximately $87 million. My real estate holdings add another $43 million. Various investments bring the total to about $150 million. Give or take. Melissa's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. $150 million, Dad repeated slowly. It's not about the money, I said. It was never about the money. It was about building something. Creating something that mattered. Good jobs for good people. Places where families could celebrate like you're all doing tonight. That's what drives me. But your apartment, Mom said. Your clothes. You live like someone who doesn't need to prove anything. I have everything I need. I don't need a mansion or a Ferrari or designer clothes. I need purpose. And I have that. David was still shaking his head. The job offer. I offered you $35,000 a year. I know. It was sweet. I was going to make you work in the mailroom. I know that too. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping back. You sat there and let me humiliate myself. Offer you a job. Talk about my merger like it mattered. My $200 million deal. And you're sitting on $150 million like it's nothing. Your deal does matter, I said calmly. You worked hard on it. You should be proud. Don't patronize me. His voice was rising. Other diners in the main restaurant were looking over. You made a fool of me. Of all of us. I didn't make you do anything. I just sat here quietly while you all talked. While you judged. while you decided my life was a failure without knowing a single thing about it. Melissa was crying now. Actual tears running down her perfectly made-up face. We were trying to help you. Were you? Or were you trying to feel superior? Trying to have someone to look down on? Someone who made you feel better about yourselves? The truth of it hung in the air. Nobody answered. Dad cleared his throat. Sarah, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. It's your birthday. Let's just enjoy dinner. Enjoy dinner? David laughed bitterly. How are we supposed to enjoy anything now? This entire meal, this entire party, it's in your restaurant. You're paying for everything, aren't you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Oh my God, Melissa whispered. She's paying David's $35,000 dinner and she's the one actually paying for it. I'll take care of the bill, I said quietly. Consider it my birthday gift to Dad. No. Dad stood up. No, I can't accept that. David already paid. He's the one who... Actually, Robert appeared again, reading the room perfectly. Mr. David Torres's card was declined earlier. We've been holding the bill pending resolution. David's face went purple. That's impossible. I have a platinum card. There must be some mistake. Perhaps, Robert said diplomatically. But Ms. Torres has instructed us to comp the entire meal. No charge for any of you. No charge, Dad repeated. He sat back down heavily. My daughter is comping my 60th birthday dinner. Happy birthday, Dad, I said softly. The rest of dinner was awkward. Nobody knew what to say. The mayor and the CEO Dad had invited kept glancing over, sensing something was wrong. Conversations were stilted. The elaborate dessert course arrived, but nobody seemed to enjoy it. When coffee came, my cousin Jessica, who'd barely said a word all night, finally spoke up. How did you hide it? I mean, you own 48 restaurants. How did none of us know? I used a holding company. Different names. I'm not on any of the websites or social media. I don't do press. I work behind the scenes. The managers run the day-to-day operations. I just oversee things. That's incredible, Jessica said. Honestly, I'm in business school and what you did, building that from $60,000. That's extraordinary. Thank you. Can I ask you something? Would you be willing to talk to my entrepreneurship class? We study success stories and yours is... No, I said gently. I appreciate it, but no. I don't do that kind of thing. Because of us, Mom said suddenly. Because we made you feel like you had to hide. I considered lying. Making it easier for her. But I'd spent 6 years being quiet. Maybe it was time for honesty. Yes, I said. Because of you. Because every time I tried to tell you what I was doing, you shut me down. Told me I was making mistakes. Told me to be practical. Get a real job. Stop dreaming. So I stopped talking and started doing. And somewhere along the way I realized I didn't need your approval anymore. I didn't need your validation. I just needed to build something I was proud of. And I did. I'm sorry, Mom whispered. We all are, Dad added. Sir, we were wrong. Clearly we were very wrong. You weren't wrong to want success for me. You were wrong to define what my success should look like. To assume that because I wasn't following your path, I must be failing. Melissa wiped her eyes. Can we start over? Can you forgive us? I thought about it. 6 years of judgment. 6 years of being talked down to. 6 years of being the family disappointment. Could I forgive that? I don't know, I said honestly. I'm not angry. I'm just tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of being dismissed. I've spent years proving myself, and tonight was supposed to be Dad's party, not my reveal. But you all pushed. You staged an intervention for someone who didn't need saving. David sat down. He looked smaller somehow. What happens now? Now, you all go home. I'll take care of the bill here. Life continues. But we want to know you, Jessica said. The real you. Not the version we invented in our heads. I looked around the table. At the people I'd grown up with. The family I'd spent 6 years avoiding. Could we fix this? Did I even want to? Maybe, I said finally. But it has to be different. No more judgment. No more assumptions. You ask me about my life and you actually listen. And when I tell you something, you don't immediately tell me why I'm wrong or how I should do it differently. Can you do that? Slow nods around the table. And David? A job offer? I appreciate the thought, but I'm good. Really good. But your firm handles corporate law, right? Yes. My companies need legal counsel. I've been using a firm in New York, but I'd rather keep it local. If you're interested, send me a proposal. Make it competitive and we can talk. His eyes widened. You're serious? Completely. I believe in supporting family. When they support me back. I'll have a proposal on your desk Monday morning. I don't have a desk. Email is fine. Melissa leaned forward. And me? Is there anything I can do? You're in marketing, right? Brand management. I work for Richardson Group. I know. You're good at what you do. I've seen your campaigns. I'm thinking about rebranding some of my older restaurants. Modernizing them. If you're interested, we could talk. She nodded eagerly. Yes. Absolutely yes. Good. We'll set up a meeting. I looked at my parents. As for you two, I'm not sure what we do. This isn't something we can fix over one dinner. We know, Dad said. But we'd like to try. If you'll let us. Maybe. One step at a time. Start by actually asking me about my life instead of assuming you know everything about it. Deal. Robert appeared with the check presenter, but it was empty. Just a simple card that read, "Thank you for celebrating at La Maison Bluey. Tonight's dinner is our gift to Mr. Torres and family. Management." Dad stared at the card. "You really do own this place." "I really do. And 47 others. 47 others." He laughed. It was a strange sound, part shock, part pride, part regret. "My daughter, the restaurant mogul. How did I miss this?" "You were busy assuming I was a failure. It's an easy thing to miss when you're not paying attention." The party began to break up. Cousins and aunts and uncles filed out, many of them stopping to hug me, to whisper apologies, to ask if we could have coffee soon. I was polite but non-committal. Trust wasn't rebuilt in one night. Jessica hung back. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for what you said. About following your own path. I've been thinking about dropping out and starting my own thing, but everyone tells me I'm crazy." "Are you crazy?" "Maybe. Probably." "Then you're in good company." I handed her my card. It was simple, just my name and email address. "Send me your business plan. If it's solid, we'll talk about funding." Her eyes went wide. "Really? Really? But make it good. I don't invest in garbage." After she left, it was just my immediate family. Mom, Dad, David, Melissa, and me. We stood in the private dining room, surrounded by the remnants of Dad's birthday dinner. "I have to ask," David said. "Why restaurants? Of all the things you could have done with Grandma's money, why this?" I smiled. "You remember Grandma's house? How she always had people over. How her kitchen was the heart of everything. That's what she taught me. That food brings people together. That sharing a meal is sacred. When she died and left me that money, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to create spaces where families could gather. Where they could celebrate. Where they could connect. Like we did in her kitchen." Mom was crying again. "She would have been so proud of you." "I hope so. Can I ask you something?" Dad said. "This studio apartment you live in. Is it really as small as Melissa said?" 3,000 square feet. Top floor. Rooftop garden. Floor-to-ceiling windows. It's small by some standards. Perfect by mine. And you could afford more. I could afford a private island. But why would I want one? I like where I live. I like my life. I built it exactly the way I wanted it." We stood there for a moment longer, this family that didn't quite know how to be a family anymore. "Dad," I said finally. "Happy 60th birthday. I mean that. I hope it was everything you wanted." "It wasn't," he admitted. "It was better. But as I learned something tonight. I learned that my daughter is extraordinary. And I've been too blind to see it. Better late than never. Will you come to dinner? Next Sunday. Just us. No extended family. No show. Just the 5 of us trying to figure this out." I thought about saying no. About keeping my distance like I had for 6 years. But looking at their faces, the hope mixed with fear, I found myself nodding. "Hey. Next Sunday. But not here. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can actually talk." "You choose the place," Mom said. "Obviously you know all the best restaurants." I smiled. "I know a little place in the suburbs. Nothing fancy. Just good food and honest conversation. I think you'll like it. We'll be there. They left one by one until I was alone in the private dining room. Robert came back in, already directing staff to clean up. That was quite an evening, he said. That's one way to put it. Are you okay, Miss Torres? I'm not sure. Ask me again next week. The staff wanted me to tell you, everyone's talking about what happened. Word spread fast. They're proud of you. For standing up for yourself. I wasn't trying to make a scene. You didn't. You just told the truth. Sometimes that's revolutionary enough. I walked through the restaurant, saying goodnight to the kitchen staff, checking in with the hostess, making sure everything was ready for tomorrow's lunch service. This was my routine. Every restaurant, every week. Staying connected. Staying involved. Outside, the city was alive with Friday night energy. People laughing, walking, living their lives. I started walking toward home, my studio apartment, 3,000 feet of peaceful solitude. My phone buzzed. A text from David. I'm sorry. For everything. Thank you for tonight. For being gracious when you had every right to throw us out. I'll earn your trust back. I promise. Then Melissa, can we really start over? I want to know my sister. The real one. Not the one I invented to make myself feel better. Then Mom, I love you. I should have said that more. I should have listened more. I'm going to do better. Then Dad, 60 years old and I'm still learning. Thank you for the lesson. And for the dinner. It was perfect. You're perfect. Love, Dad. I stood on the corner reading their messages, and for the first time in 6 years I felt something shift. Maybe we couldn't fix everything. Maybe some damage was permanent. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something new. Something honest. Something real. I typed back a group message. See you Sunday. Come hungry. Then I put my phone away and walked home, through the city I'd built my empire in, past restaurants I owned and others I didn't, past families eating and celebrating and connecting, past all the noise and chaos and beautiful mess of life. I'd spent 6 years proving I didn't need them. Tonight I'd proven it. But I'd also learned something else. I didn't need them, but maybe I wanted them. On new terms. On honest terms. On terms where I wasn't invisible anymore. My phone buzzed again. Jessica, I'm working on that business plan. Thank you for believing in me. I smiled and kept walking. This was what Grandma had taught me. That success wasn't about the money or the empire or proving people wrong. It was about building something that mattered. Creating spaces for people to connect. And maybe, just maybe, finding connection yourself. I unlocked the door to my building, the one I'd bought 5 years ago, the one worth $22 million that nobody in my family knew about, and took the elevator to the top floor. Home. My perfect, simple, peaceful home. Where I could be exactly who I was, without judgment, without explanation, without apology. Tomorrow I'd wake up and do it all again. Check on my restaurants. Review the numbers. Plan expansions. Train managers. Solve problems. Build my empire one day at a time. But tonight I'd done something different. I'd let my family in. Just a crack. Just enough to see if we could build something new. And that felt like its own kind of success.